the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. The Cabin in the Woods Film Festival presents its dark and violent sibling, Cabin on the Web Screamfest.
Bienvenue à la boîte de nuit. Welcome to the nightclub, live on YouTube from the Cabin on the Web Screamfest. And this is going to be a best kill scene horror panel roundtable. I'm not really sure. It's going to be an open, free-form conversation eventually. So I'm joined this evening by the host of the Cabin on the Web Film Festival, Queer Demon.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Cheers. Yes, indeed. We've been rolling through this festival together the whole time, so it's been a blast.
Yeah. Travis
and
is my new ride or die for real.
I'm there. Frightmare in the chat, Queer Demon. We also have, and I'm going round table or clockwise on my screen. We have with us Sean O'Connor, who is the host of the Sinful Cuts podcast, spelled C-I-N-E, Sinful Cuts. I got that right?
You got that right.
Thank you for being here, Sean.
It's great to be here. I can't wait to get into it with everybody.
Hell yeah. And we also have with us Howard Hawkins, aka the maestro behind Havoc Props, doing the damn thing in horror films. Howard, love you. Glad to have you. Oh no, we can't hear you, Howard. Oh no. Howard is going to figure that one out, and then we'll get back to Howard. Yeah, you do your thing, Howard. Just let us know when you're back. We also have with us Cole McCracken, and I saw your film, The Skin She's In. What an amazing short. Welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
And we've got Lindsay. I'm not gonna lie. Crystal gave me everyone's rundown. She put horror content creator. I'm assuming that you're making stuff on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that.
Just Instagram and TikTok right now. Just reviews mostly.
TikTok and horror reviewing. Okay, doke. Awesome sauce. And before we get out of here, at the end of this, I'm gonna get everybody to pimp where people can find y'all. So we'll do that too. But also, we've got friend of the Nightclub podcast, horror author, the amazing Andrew Nyberg. Andrew, it's been too long.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about it.
We got you back, Howard? Nope. Damn it. In the words of Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we'll do it live. Howard, maybe try going back to the original setup. I don't know why it muted it muted you for seemingly no reason the first time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We're gonna roll with it. So the discussion here, and this is from the Cabin on the Web curator, creator, Crystal Connor wanted us to have this little discussion about best horror kills, best kill scenes. And there was a subtext or subtitle to that, which was, what is the allure of the horror kill scene? And how does that perpetuate misconceptions about violence in real life? So a little deep, that question. But I wanted to start this out with a roundtable of what is everyone's favorite kill scene in a horror movie, or kill scenes. You don't have to just give me one. You can give me a few, but I would just like to know. And whoever wants to jump in, jump in. Like now, it's the reins are off. Everybody, let's just talk. And
All right, if no one's going to step
go
up, I'll
yeah, go ahead, Sean. Podcasters are ready to just yap.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to shut me up now, huh? All right, so when I was invited, by the way, it's an honor to be here, but when I was invited to be part of the panel, this question really haunted me, and I'm sure it haunted all of you as well, because there's so many great kills. Which one do you choose? Is it Alex Kittner on the raft in Jaws? Is it Chrissy Watkins in Jaws in the opening scene? Is it Psycho? And Psycho stuck in my head, and it just tormented me for weeks and weeks and weeks. Is this the right one to choose? I don't know. And I feel this week I took a turn, because it's kind of Psycho, but it's not. My favorite kill and the allure of it is Donovan Leitch in the Blob remake in 1988, when he gets killed when the blob drops off the ceiling and engulfs him. And it's related to Psycho because it follows that same formula of you've got a protagonist that you think you're going to follow through the entire movie, and then all of a sudden they're dead rather quickly and brutally. So that's my favorite kill, and the allure of it is because of all the craftsmanship that goes into it. I mean, there's a documentary which you can find on YouTube, and it really goes into how they did that scene, and it's parachute silk that they're rapidly pulling off Donovan Leitch. As he's going forward, they're pulling it backward, and of course it's covered in all sorts of gelatin and goo. I'm sure it wasn't a pleasant day for him, but it works so well, and it's so effective that when I saw it in the theater in '88, I mean, I love that movie. I love damn near every frame of that movie, but that just left an imprint on me. And there's so many fantastic kills out there, and I know we're going to get to them. Everyone's going to have a great one, I'm sure. But that one meant everything to me. So I'll kick it off. That's mine.
I mean, that's a brilliant kill. I was on a podcast not too long ago, and literally the specific focus was to pick what is your guilty pleasure horror movie? And I picked The Blob and the remake. And, we had an extended conversation about not just that kill scene. I mean, it has really excellent kills all throughout it. I would actually, go to a kill that happens off screen, which is the sheriff's death in that, where he comes floating by the phone booth. That character is set up as, a potential good guy, as a potential interventionist character who could step in and save somebody, especially that particular waitress at that moment. And it was such a nice way to nail in the hopelessness of the situation. That's always one I run to for favorite deaths. I think for me, I'm going to give two, actually, and they're very different deaths, though. One of them, I actually, amusingly enough, did think about The Blob when I saw the question, but I ended up going to Slither, the James Gunn horror film, and the gigantic, bloated woman in the barn saying, "There's something wrong with me," and absolutely blowing up everywhere. That's one of those iconic moments where, right until they open that barn, you really have no idea what it is about, what you're about to see, and it manages to show something that you've just not seen before on screen. And I thought it was an absolutely brilliant and iconic moment. The other, though, and this is sort of what I would say is the most affecting kill scene for me. I
want to interrupt real quick. If someone's not talking, if you can mute, because we're getting that feedback, that loop. Okay. Thank you. There it is. All right.
So the one that affected me, I think, the most would be, and I forget the character's name, you have to forgive me, it's been a while, but the very first kill in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when Leatherface just steps out of the doorway and takes him down with the hammer.
Anybody home? Hello? Hey, Pam. Hello?
rapidity of the moment. Basically it's over before you even realize what's happened. And I think that kill in particular taps into something just absolutely primal where, there's so many kill scenes that try to build, especially in slasher films, that try to build suspense by drawing out the chase scene, by having, the cliche character stumbles, all of the things that make it seem like the kill is imminent. But really what's scarier, this, a flight where you have 8 million chances at asserting your own agency in the situation, or being killed before you even have a chance to react, before you even know what just happened to you. And I would go with that latter. I think it's, just the speed with which one's life can be taken, I think is absolutely terrifying. And I think that moment is absolutely brilliant in putting us in that exact spot.
Andrew, you stole what I think was gonna be mine, because in my head I had a few, but that initial kill in Texas Chainsaw, when Leatherface comes out of nowhere and smacking with the sledge, that's the one you were referring to?
Absolutely.
That's like the classic fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel, like the kids are sneaking off into the witch's house, they're following the breadcrumbs, and then the spooky thing happens. The monster is revealed. Like it's as old as time. That kill, and I'm getting chills right now. I'm not even kidding, because the way that I forget the character's name, but he's wriggling on the floor because the skull is now embedded in his brain. That is haunting, and it's a good reason to never be an E, everybody. Okay, don't break and enter. If you knock and no one says come in, stay the fuck out of that house. Otherwise you're gonna meet skin wearing other people's skin, daddy. I'm a piggyback off you for that reason on that one. That would probably be, off the top of my head, my favorite kill in a horror movie. Yeah,
Man, there's so many reasons to like any given kill. It's always a question of what is it trying to do? Is it trying to be that sudden shock? Is it trying to be a piece of like technical work? I would think of something like Day of the Dead, the decapitation scene. Tom Savini did some great work, and I think the sound design there was just fantastic as the vocal cords get stretched out and the scream gets higher and higher pitched. It's just insanity to me. There's horror comedy is a wonderful place to exist as well. Movies like Freaky or Killer Clowns from Outer Space have some amazing pun kills. I mean, like getting turned into cotton candy is pretty insane, or the Knock My Block Off scene. But for me, only one horror movie has ever just made me shut it off and take some time, and I think it was because of the emotional weight behind the death itself, less than the nature of the death, and that's got to be in Hereditary, when Charlie gets decapitated by the post.
Charlie!
And I know that Hereditary is often cited by a lot of people as some of their favorite horror, but for me it was I don't know. Myself and my sister were both anaphylactic with nuts, so it was really easy to find myself thinking of some family in that situation. Of how do you handle that? Like, oh fuck, my sister's decapitated in the backseat of the car. What now? And the way he just drives home, and then the mother gets up and screams and cries and wants to die, and the way that death is felt throughout the rest of the movie is something that I can still, you still think about a lot. And then on the flip side too, a death where you really want it to happen, like in Panos Cosmatos' Mandy, the cult leader, the final cult leader.
Yeah.
That's a death you really want to see coming. So it's interesting to see the interplay there. But I think my answer is going to stick with the Hereditary.
I want to jump in real quick and say in the chat, Rainbow Fright is citing Blair Witch as one of the most effective kill scenes. So Rainbow Fright popping in there real quick. Lindsay, Howard.
For me, I had a hard time picking, honestly. So I picked one that really kind of changed horror movies for me. I grew up watching horror with my mom, but it was all very mainstream, you know, big budget kind of horror movies that my dad wouldn't watch with her. But when I was about 20, my friend introduced me to Funny Games, the Michael Pitt one, the American remake, but it's pretty much a shot for shot. And that was a roller coaster for me. I had never seen a horror movie like that. And my favorite was pretty much near the end when they're on the boat.
Ciao, Bella.
And they just keep on going. And it was just like, I just remember like audibly gasping and then just laughing because like, why the hell would I think that they would have ever let her live like that? And just from that point forward, I was obsessed with horror. And I actually have the poster from that movie tattooed on me because it was just such a mind-opening moment seeing that movie.
That's dope. What movie is it where they put the victims in a bag, or they put a bag over their head, then they bring them out to the middle of the water, drop them in, and you think, you know, that's it, but then you see the bubbles and the person comes up.
Help me! We did it. Leslie, we did it. Let's go. Turn. 1, 2, 3. Come on.
Anyone familiar with that ending to a movie?
That was Paddington 2.
Ha!
I have no idea. I don't know what movie that was.
It was a politically charged movie from a couple years ago. It takes place in real time, so like you literally follow the character the whole way through. It was these white supremacist ladies who all got together to have a meeting, and then they go invade a I don't remember the ethnicity of the person that they invade, but it's a different ethnic group. They invade their home to trash
Two
it.
Asian girls. I think it's called Soft and Quiet.
Soft and Quiet. Yes. That was one of my favorite movies from a few years ago. If y'all haven't seen that movie, I'm gonna shut up about it. Go watch that movie. Really good. Yeah, in the chat, in love with horrors, chiming in, got that going on. Yep, thank you. Nice. Sorry, Howard. You are a special effects maestro. So I'm waiting for you to bring some heat. Oh no, you're muted again.
I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties here. Can you hear me?
We got you. We got you.
Okay. Being a prop guy, I kind of lose interest in your basic things, the knives, the guns, the machetes. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Jason, Freddy, not at all. But I like the unique killings of Saw. Matter of fact, Hostel. They use power-based weapons, just everyday blue-collar weapons. And I don't know, it just, things that I deal with on a daily basis, just knowing you can use it as a weapon of torture to kill your victim. So I actually went back through and watched the Hostels today. And I definitely got to give it to Hostel. That would be my favorite kill for the movies. But there's so many different ways to kill them, and I cannot put a single one on display. Hell, I really wouldn't even know where to begin. But
like
if I
the one.
had to jump
like the
on
one.
any other movie, Friday the 13th, where Jason took one of the campers in a sleeping bag, beat him around a tree. That's a great scene. He didn't use the machete. So I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint one scene for me.
Ashley's jumping in the chat saying, Ashley's jumping in the chat saying that the Hatchet movies have some fun kills. When I first saw the original Hatchet and that scene where Victor Crowley is ripping that person, I think it's this lady, her the top of her head completely off.
Yeah.
What?
I like the transition like before that as well, because it's like I can't remember what that camera movement's called, but they go like a 360, and then obviously like the actor covers up the camera a bit, but to like make it to where it like pulls her apart, like, woo, it's so icky in the best way possible though.
I'll have to check out Hatchet. I've never seen it. Thanks, Ashley. Ashley is the co-owner of Havoc also. So she's my partner in all this mess.
I like how whenever you were talking about the weapons, you were saying a weapon to kill your victim with. You're thinking about it from the perspective of the killer. Like, ooh, I picture you looking around your tool shed, you know, like, whoa, what could I use today?
I got all kinds of stuff around here.
I wanted to ask Queer Demon real quick. What's one of your favorite kills from a horror movie of all time, or the favorite kill if you got it?
So I did not have the luxury of waiting to answer this question, other than for everyone else to go first. So I've been scrambling for the past like 8 minutes, just kind of trying to gather. There's so many impactful ones that have a lot of like emotional depth to them that I really want to talk about, like The Wardrobe in A Tale of Two Sisters. I don't want to like spoil it if no one's ever seen it, but it is just really twisty, and it really messes with like your psyche a bit in terms of like who you can believe for the narrator or whatnot. It's like very unreliable. But I think if I was to kind of just pick, it would probably be the angel kill from Saw 3. Where the woman is like strung up in the chains and she's got that like rib cage trap, and then Amanda of course cheats, and the victim doesn't get the key, and of course the trap releases and you just get to see the aftermath. And I don't know if it was like the fact that I saw it like super young and it was like really impressionable, but that would probably have to be like the one that I think about the most, other than like maybe the opening of Final Destination 2. like
Yeah.
things I like always are in like the back of my head.
I was waiting I thought for sure someone was going to say the Final Destination 2. No one can
Yeah.
drive down the highway behind one of those log trucks anymore and not be like, nope, getting the fuck out of this person's way. Mm-mm.
Exactly.
No,
I
I
wanna-
literally brought that up yesterday.
See,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I did have
Cultural
one more
impact.
that like I guess I kind of want to throw in there, and it's the ending of The Mist. And I'm not going to spoil the ending of The Mist if you've never seen it, but that is fucked up. That is fucked up, and that's not the way Stephen King wrote the story. And when Stephen King saw the ending of The Mist, he was like, "Yeah, this is way better." Like, what?
I think that kind of comes to what Cole was saying, though, about a lot of what this question's answer is going to depend on is what factors we're weighing in here. If we want to think about, what's the point and purpose of the kill scene? The ending of The Mist, of course, is it's really meant to be that emotional gut punch where it really drives in both that combination of of despair, but then also like contrasted against that weirdly hopeful side to that, where if he had only waited a few more seconds, if he hadn't given up, it's a really interesting way to deliver an emotional message. Then in contrast, though, thinking about something like the rib cage rip open, a very similar scene that really stands out to me is the character of DJ's death in Event Horizon. The doctor who is spread open over the examination table with his organs laid out, and you have that very cathedral style architecture of the spaceship in the background, the door and the windows. The body itself is a set piece. It's more than just a corpse. It's more than just this character that's dying at that point. Also, it is a moment of artistry being presented by both the combination of director and special effects artists. And then finally, you might compare that to something like Final Destination, actually, or the example I always like to use for this kind of kill or this kind of killer death is The Thing, where we have almost a literal story that's told through the way in which the kill scene progresses. The one that always stands out to me in The Thing is when they're given the defibrillator to the character. The chest opens, the hands get bitten off. You have the one character who is flailing, and then you have this whole progression of animatronics that then erupts from this body, all the way down to the head removing itself from the torso, growing its own eyes, and trying to walk off out the door. It's the sequence itself is almost like a short film. It has so much time and energy put into planning these meticulous stages that part of what's so amazing about the experience of watching it is simply seeing the sequence unfold. It's just like in Final Destination. There's no secret when any of the deaths are coming. It gets telegraphed for you. But really, at that point, it becomes, just trying to figure out as you watch what the Rube Goldberg device is going to be that takes them down. Really different artistry is going on here. I think it's difficult to, say what's your favorite kill scene instead of, what's your favorite creature kill scene? What's your favorite slasher murder scene? You look at something like the amazing scene in Hereditary. That's one, I literally sat up in my seat when that happened. I was watching it at home with my stepson. We had never seen it before. We actually went in completely blind with no idea what we were in for. And, we were like, well, you get those weird, creepy lead-ups, but otherwise, that's like the first big event in the story. And that really was just a jaw-dropping moment, especially when followed by Toni Collette's just absolute masterclass performance of anguish. But again, radically different kind of kill at that point. I don't know that I could compare that to the Thing erupting during the testing scene and biting the guy's head and throwing him up against the ceiling.
That is a classic scene. That scene in Hereditary too, though, I saw that in the theater, and there was a collective silence that just fell over the theater was already being quiet, but it was almost even more quiet. Sorry, my dog's playing with a squeaky toy. It was like, y'all said enough about that scene. But Andrew, talking about the different ways you can experience these kill scenes, that is going to bring me to the allure of it. Like, what about it What about seeing death in a horror movie? And this is for everybody here. Is the I guess the reason you go for it? What to you is, and this is going to be an odd word, but attractive. What's attractive about experiencing the death, vicariously through cinema? And whoever wants to go, just jump in and like I said earlier, let's just have it out.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, when I was thinking about this, I actually looked up like what percentage of people just die of natural causes, and it's like almost 93%. So like part of it is just like we all kind of deep down inside know that most likely our death is going to be boring, and it in itself won't be memorable really in any way. And something like this is just almost in a oddly morbid sense, but like a more imaginative way of like these people go down in history or infamy in a way. And as nice as it would be to just die in our sleep or whatever, something like that is a lot more entertaining, creative, fun, when life really is just pretty boring.
I love that answer, honestly.
I get this question all the time, and I would suspect that you all do too, because we're all in the horror realm, horror community. There are so many people in our lives, friends, family, that aren't into horror, and they're always asking why. What is the attraction? What's the allure? And I always tell them that there's so many things about life that are so heavy, and they weigh down on you. You get to go into a dark room for 2 hours, and it's like a cathartic experience. You kind of get to leave your demons in that room because of the horrible things that you're seeing. And you walk out, and typically, it might be into a bright sunny day, you walk out into the night, and you take that big gulp of air, and you're like, you know what? My day's a hell of a lot better than what I saw in there. And you might not even be thinking about it. It might be subconscious, but you're elevated, you're lifted. If you're into horror, that's how you feel, or at least that's how I feel. So people have a real hard time understanding that it's almost like a joyful experience seeing a horror film, because I do get to leave all those demons in that room in there.
Well, and actually, to add to that, film as a whole, and this even steps beyond horror, is explicitly designed to create or to immerse you in that narrative dream that creates emotions and excitement and reactions that are compelling enough that your mind ceases to wander to the day-to-day stresses and things that bother you. And in order to accomplish that, because really, the day-to-day, our day-to-day lives, typically speaking, have a great deal of a lot of stress, a lot of things that matter, right? Things that are important to us that, we know if there's problems with, they're going to cause significant worry. So to turn that off requires something that has a substantial degree of intensity. Now, the form that takes, I think, can vary pretty wildly for each individual person. It's why some people, for example, love romantic comedies. They really want to get swept up in the, in that sort of the romance of it, the lightheartedness of it, because that's their way of turning those things off, of being able to stop thinking about the fact that, holy shit, their credit card's really adding up. Maybe they need to go to the doctor, but, in the American healthcare system, you just can't afford it. And horror, I think, has this ability to put us into very adrenaline-oriented situations where, we picture ourselves, for example, behind that log truck that we've seen before. We picture ourselves, standing in the shower when we notice that the floor is really slippery and how easy it would be just to fall and smash our head open. These scenes that really strike us, tap into something very primitive. That fear of death, that exhilaration at, understanding that there may be an imminent threat, and that really quickly shuts us down in terms of how our mind wanders and travels, because all of a sudden there's the potential threat on the screen in front of us. Now we have to watch it. Now we're going to be fixed on it, because that's the way our self-preservation works. So it's a different mechanism for being able to shut down our mind's general tendency to wander to the things that stress the shit out of us on a day-to-day basis.
The horror community will be the only ones to survive a true apocalypse.
I'm sorry, Howard, but I'm definitely one of the first ones dead. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah, same. I'm not a warrior in any way, shape, or form. I'm quite sensitive, a little flower, if you will.
Howard
would
means
be
the
the first
Southern
out.
horror fans.
Oh,
No,
We're
I-
fans. We
I
know
love
the
that.
rights and wrongs and what not to enter.
Yeah.
True.
Oh. And we've had fun playing some games during the festival that actually were that was brought up. I'll jump in real quick with a few thoughts, and then open the floor back up to Queer Demon, you hadn't gone, and Cole hadn't gone. And Lindsay, you had went with the allure part. Okay. For me, it's a morbid curiosity mixed with what Andrew was talking about, that the finality, the imminent finality of because life is fragile. And now don't get me wrong, there's a whole different artistic aspect of it that I probably was the thing that drew me in first, was how are they pulling off these special effects? That was really cool, and I think when you're a little kid and you see these things, and I'm not saying parents should show their little kids gory movies, but at the time I grew up, and I'm 35, I was lucky enough that my dad got cable when I was, about 9 or 10. So I grew up watching Monster Vision. Joe Bob showed me all the fucked up shit. Thank you, Joe Bob, forever and always. You are the fucking godfather of horror for me. You see all that kind of stuff, and you're spooked, and I guess that's ingrained in our DNA, that you gotta, when we were hunter-gatherers or whatever, surviving outside in the dark, you're scared of the thing with the sharp teeth that's going to come and take you away. I guess that was all in there. And then also how do they pull it off? But then it gets deeper. It gets to that point of oh, I'm going to die. You have the existential crisis eventually. And it is, and I guess I said this at the onset, it's the vicarious coping mechanism. And I think it was Sean, you were saying that about we go to the movies to let our demons run free, open the floodgates and let them go. It's and I guess I am cherry picking what everyone was saying, but that's all. Everyone is saying, I'm floored. This is great. So I'm gonna shut the fuck up and let Queer Demon and Cole go ahead and finish us off with this the allure of the horror kill.
I think we can throw it to Cole first.
Sure, sounds good. Well, I think, frankly, all of the above. The initial curiosity can bring you there. The aesthetics can continue to engage that curiosity, and in a very technical or official sense, you want to know, sometimes, how did they pull this off? What materials were used? What innovations were brought in? Where is it an animatronic or a puppet? The Blob is a great example of that technical work, honestly, because they had to incorporate so many different techniques that they learned as they were shooting. And that first kill over on the jock right in the opening there, that was the final kill they had shot. And they incorporated so many of the things that they had learned in the process, as an example there. But then I think what keeps people there and why horror is so enduring is from that catharsis. For some people, it's a chance to be scared. For most, it's a chance to be brave. Something like a roller coaster in a lot of ways. And I think that horror is a genre that, more so than most, is very zeitgeisty. And by that, I mean you can tell a lot about a given culture based on what they're afraid of. And I think that gives us a chance for community and for growth, and to have conversations that are important not only for the time, but sometimes for a very long time. A lot of the ancient mythos is ancient myths are often based around fear and overcoming fear. And so I would say a lot of our fairy tales, especially the Grimm type, are going back as far as the Greeks. It's all horror. And the kill is sort of the penultimate moment of that horror. how do we die and what happens to us when we die.
You speaking to my fairy tale loving heart. That's why I like that Texas Chainsaw kill. I think Texas Chainsaw is a fucking spooky backwoods, and I've made the argument on the Nightclub episode 10, Saturn in Retrograde. Texas Chainsaw is a cosmic horror movie too. There's reasons. But also Howard, I'm sorry, I don't think you had gave. You just said we were gonna survive. I don't know if you wanted to expound on the allure as well, unless Queer Demon was ready to go. No, Queer Demon's not ready to go.
The whole thing about death, it's something we never experience but once, unless you're one of the lucky ones. I've been close to death twice. I didn't see nothing. I didn't feel nothing. But I think it's mainly the curiosity. That's what draws people to it. What happens? What's after it? And we can't answer it. But we can make a story about it. Other than that, I have nothing. I don't know. I'm clueless on death.
I like whenever somebody with the Southern accent, and especially like Howard's got that cool Southern accent. I think I have one too, a little bit, but like, has anyone seen those videos where they show people talking in Shakespeare, but it's Southern? That, like, Shakespearean dialogue with a Southern accent is lit. It is fucking lit. It was like it was written for it.
To be or not to be. That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die. To sleep. To sleep. Perchance to dream. There's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, or that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, puzzles the will, it makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience doth make cowards of us all.
Well, you know something really funny, actually. They've done studies of deep Appalachia, especially like when you get into really more isolated communities, and they find that the cadence and syntax used in deep Appalachia is the closest thing on the planet still spoken to Shakespearean English. So
Really?
you're actually really dead on with that, where deep mountain language, when you get away from cities, away from communities, and just people who have lived there for generations, their speech is essentially speaking a preserved form of Shakespearean English.
Whoa, that is wild. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm a huge fan of I'll say language, but I really mean in my heart accents. I enjoy accents, just different accents of all kinds, and I like doing voices. So I guess that might tie into it on some weird level. But that's neither here nor there. Queer Demon, did you have a reason that, what's your allure? Like, what brings you to want to see these violent or sometimes subtle kills in horror movies, all kinds of kills?
Yeah, I think like killing in horror is kind of inescapable, just because like it is really, like, according to humans, like the ultimate horror of like non-existence, like losing who you are through death. But I think like the biggest thing for me is like comeuppance. Like, I really don't like assholes, and I work in customer service part-time. So for me, a lot of it is like vicariously like putting those assholes into like the movies that I watch or like the books that I read, and just like really like living out that like killer fantasy of like, oh, this person sucks, and I get to see them be ultimately vilified and killed for it. But I think we've all talked about like pretty much everything that could be cerebral in terms of like how the death could be alluring, and I think comeuppance is probably like my personal, like, I don't know if I have like a personal vendetta against people that like mistreat me at work, but it's probably got something to do with it.
I feel that. I mean, that's why I laughed when you said I've been in customer service for several different jobs, and you want to strangle some motherfuckers sometimes. Like, it's like, no, the customer ain't always right, bitch. But this depends on the day, or like you're saying, coworkers even too. It's like, what the fuck?
Very true. Very true.
Ashley said in the chat, I think a lot of us fantasize in a way what death is going to be like for us, and that brings about so many questions and emotions. So like, and that's what Howard was saying too, I think, to a degree, is I don't know about death, we don't know about death, but we sure can write a story about it. And that's, I guess, ultimately, it's like, I don't know if Carl Sagan had said this, but I like Carl Sagan a lot, so I'm just going to say it in his voice the best I can, when he's like, the universe is observing itself. Like we are observing ourselves, and we are the stardust, like, condensed into this monkey body form thing with phalanges and arms and blah, 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 blobbing at each other. We're telling stories to cope with the unexplainable. I love this conversation and what's happening with it. And to close out, Crystal had asked how we feel about violence in horror films, and she worded it as perpetuating misconceptions as to how real violence occurs. And I'll throw in my 2 cents first on this one, because I've always felt like this ever since I was a teenager. And I'll tell like a little brief story. When I was maybe 12, I grew up in a semi-religious house. It wasn't very strict, but there were certain things my parents would be like, they'd be looking, and parents should be looking. You should be looking at what your kids are watching. Fact. My parents were like, oh, Dragon Ball? You're not watching that. And I'm like, Dad, after I get home from school, come sit in my room with me and watch an episode of Dragon Ball Z. He sat down with me, because see, they were cool. They weren't assholes. He watched the episode, and like maybe 10 minutes in, he was like, you can watch this. That's fine. I just had to sit down and talk to him. And real quick, Evan popped in and said, Dad said death is the most calming sensation he's ever had. Not religious, so he didn't say he saw anything or anyone but himself. That's spooky. That's kind of spooky, Evan. I like it though. Misconceptions about violence. Yeah, I don't think unless you have issues. To me, the violence in horror films, if you're even a little off but not gonna go out and hurt anyone already, I don't think that it's like the video game argument or the satanic panic for music in the 80s or whatever. It's like this shit is not going to cause someone to go out and harm anyone. I think you're still gonna know, quote unquote, right from wrong. Everyone has their own moral compass, but we know what violence is. We know what pain is. Again, unless something's really off with you. And it's like Scream said, horror movies don't create psychos. They make psychos more creative. It's like they're already going to do what they're going to do. Wes Craven not Wes Craven. Fucking Kevin Williamson, screenwriter for that movie, I believe. Yeah, he nail on the head to me. So that's what I feel. At least the best way I understood what Crystal was asking us to talk about. I don't think that violence is going to get worse because these things exist. This is art, and level-headed people know what they're getting themselves into.
Travis, I'm old enough that I actually lived through the satanic panic. I was in junior high and high school during the 80s, and it was a whole bunch of bullshit. Silent Night, Deadly Night, with the Catholic Church up in arms. It's going to turn everybody into murderous, Santa killers. Bunch of bullshit. You can go just about every 5-10 years. You can find another touch point in time where horror movies are vilified, and it all turns out to be bullshit. To your point, if somebody has violent tendencies, oh, I'm getting some feedback. Howard, I think. Okay, good. If someone's got violent tendencies, they're probably going to act on it. It's not going to be horror movies that are going to be the catalyst for that. Look, if I had, let's be honest, it's mostly young men that are going to be the perpetrator of that. If I had a young son at this point, I would let them watch Cannibal Holocaust on a fucking loop before I let them watch 45 seconds of like an Andrew Tate video. So let's just be fair about what we're saying here. Horror movies can be fundamentally good for someone to get some of those feelings out if they're leaning in that direction. Horror movies are harmless. And if you're into horror, you transcend to a point where you're appreciating the technical craftsmanship, the script writing, the direction, the production, the set design. You go beyond, and you start to appreciate all the aspects of it. But yeah, there are a lot more scary things out there for people to be watching besides horror movies. Horror movies give you a good scare, and that's what they're there for.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I do want to ask real quick because I have no fucking clue. Who the fuck's Andrew Tate? What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
I'm so sorry if I'm making this political, and I didn't want to. I don't want to do this, but a lot of don't. Should I?
No, I was saying keep going. Yeah.
Oh, I don't care. This is we are representing Cabin on the Web, so maybe we shouldn't. But if it was the nightclub, I'd want to know what you're talking about because I don't
just
know
a lot of toxic, misogynistic, racist. Horrible.
Fuck Andrew Tate. Then. Yeah. No.
Fuck that guy. Well, he's probably going to prison. So yeah.
There you go.
Find out, Andrew Tate.
There you go. Who else wants to go with the?
Well, I wanted to piggyback off of that, actually. I was born in 1979, so I actually do remember the tail end of the Satanic Panic, including things like, what was the Tom Hanks movie, Mazes and Monsters, the Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to go crazy and start killing people thing because you think you're your character. But no, I grew up in the 90s. I was really big in the industrial and death metal scene. I used to be a lead vocalist for a metal band. And then now I'm a horror author, and a huge chunk of the people that I interact with on a daily basis are other horror authors. A lot of them are far more extreme horror authors than me, people who write stuff that really pushes the envelope for gore and violence. And, one thing I'll say about most of the people that I've met is they've almost been universally the nicest, sweetest, best-tempered people that I've met. And a huge chunk of it is very similar to what Sean said, where, there's a lot of catharsis to working out aggression, frustrations, and things like that through these kinds of artistic expressions. In contrast, though, when we think about what actually brings people to violence, of course, we could definitely look to some of these public figures that are incredibly toxic, but I mean, really, even more so, I think a huge chunk of it comes from the normalization of violent conversation in the household, where you have somebody who sees something they don't like and they're saying, I'm gonna fucking kill them. These are the people who use violence as part of their vernacular. When they react to adversity, problems happen, they talk about this as how they would like to solve the problem. And that's the kind of thing that definitely is more likely, to me at least, to shape the psychological mindset of a maturing adult, somebody who may well commit violence one day. I'm sure you could say maybe watching a horror movie could inspire a very specific action. Maybe that's how they'll think about what exact action to enact. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, they've been prepped and primed through, an entire upbringing of exposure, whether it be things that happen at home, things that happen through people they interact with in things like school and work, or through some of the larger, more toxic people that may be influencing them as more broad spread voices.
To piggyback off of you here, Andrew, I mean, honestly, can things be misconstrued from horror movies? Can the argument of romanticization be brought up? Maybe, but only in the sense that, yeah, it's an artistic form that depicts violence. The same thing can be said for any media that has violence in it at all whatsoever. I mean, honestly, a Marvel movie might do more for promoting violence than a horror movie would, because at least in the horror movie, we're pretty much saying, hey, the violence is the bad thing, that's why you're scared. Lost my train of thought, but more or less, oh yeah, there it is. Horror can also be a really important tool in discussing violence through metaphor, through symbolism, through sometimes being just straight up about the violence, and sometimes, so a couple good examples is, Get Out and the violence against Black people in the United States. Another good example, that's kind of a funny example, is the Slumber Party Massacre movies. I believe the original one was directed by a woman, but the producer was part of that exploitation era. Oh, we want boobs and blood, but then the movie is about male sexual violence, and it's no mistake that the weapon of choice is a drill. Mm-hmm. And then even Alien is about sexual violence against women, where there's a violent act that leads to impregnation, and then all of these different phallic and vaginal sort of imagery used towards violence. And I think these open up the conversations in palatable ways when often society kind of wants to put its darker sides off to the corner, which allows them to grow in the dark. I think putting these things in the light and into discussion is a really important part of why we tell stories in the first place. And I think horror has a very core part in preventing violence and having clearer conversations about violence.
L to the Lindsay?
I started watching horror really young with my mom, and it's kind of in that sense where, like, it was kind of a way to start a conversation that, monsters are everywhere. It's not just, this or that, anyone, violence can be perpetrated by someone close to you or a complete stranger for no reason. Bad things happen to good people all the time. But she always reminded me, like, in the movies, this is all fake. It's, a man in a suit. It's amazing movie makeup. You gotta check out the tricks that they've used. We'd watch all the behind the scenes things together. And, I remember watching the original It very young. I was born in '89, so I was probably way too young to watch that. She took me to see The Sixth Sense in theaters when I was 10 years old, and just like, I was blown away and needed to know everything about it. But then she reminded me, the whole thing that triggered that was mental illness, and that started a huge conversation from that point, even though I was a little kid, of understanding and appreciating mental illness and how that affects people and leads to violent acts and things like that. But as horrible as they are, it's always a great way to talk about it through film rather than, you know, having to talk about something that actually happened to a real person and how devastating that can be.
That's a good point too. Yes. You saying that made me think of when my uncle talked about him dying on the operating table, and he came back. That's actually what started me on this whole different part of my life, where I grew up believing in Jesus and heaven and all that. The older I get, and I'm not Christian, but the older I get, I'm also not as against all of that thought as I used to be. Not saying I'm a Christian or anything like that, but I'm just also like optimistic that maybe there's something more to this universe than we understand. But what I will say is, for a long time after that conversation that I had with my uncle, I never conceived of nothingness until that moment. And like for a long time after that, I was like, oh, this is heavy. Like if I die and I'm suddenly nothing, I'm a blimp that goes out, the light turns off and nothing comes on, and then it's like before I was born. Like that's what it was. That's scary. You know. Howard, did you have a thought on? I mean, I feel like I know what you're gonna say, but maybe I don't. What do you think about the misconceptions people have misconstruing, I guess, violence in horror versus horror in real life? Violence, rather.
One of them already said what I was thinking. I think it was Andrew. It gives them ideas on what to do. Bullies at school, it gives them an idea. Even the media plays it out. The kids, which God forbid this shit ever happens again, kids go to school, they're going to take violence out one way or another, with or without a gun. There's knives. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways. But unfortunately, I think they watch the horror movies just to get the idea of what can they do without getting caught. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think a lot of true crime fans, I would say, like, look, I don't know what to say. If I was ever going to commit a murder, and if this is being recorded so everyone can hear it, it's going to be poison. All right. It seems like the smartest way to get away with it. Maybe if you know it, if you crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. So that seems like and also it's not as hands-on. You don't have to get down to the nitty-gritty, because I don't want to kill anybody. I don't. That's not my MO. But like, and we were talking about this earlier today because, reasons. I won't get into reasons. But if somebody ever touched my kids, nothing's gonna stop me. Nothing. There ain't gonna be a fucking judge. So that'll be the nitty-gritty. But as far as people watching it to see how to get away with it, I would definitely think that's like the true crime tangent, or divergent rather, of horror. And I could see that being a possibility, and that is kind of scary. But also, I'm not a book burner. I'm not a censorship person at all. Free speech is for everything. So, and horror is one of the bastions of free expression, free speech. We should all be able to express ourselves, in my opinion. So I guess if that is what is happening, that does suck. And maybe there's issues elsewhere we could like tackle that, but we're never going to live in a perfect world, I suppose. We are going to have to be wrapping this up very, very soon. I wanted to give Queer Demon a chance to chime in on this thought.
Oh goodness. Honestly, you guys are all so smart and philosophical. I feel like just a measly little fan that just sits by and goes, "Ooh, that was some scary shit." I think think you all have a lot of insight in terms of like how people take this applicable violence and have it toward their lives. I think it's pretty interesting to hear like all of these like big brain kind of thoughts, especially concerning like if people are going to do it, they're going to do it anyway, and you don't need a movie to tell them how to do it because they probably already come up with what they want to do in like a premeditated fashion, I suppose. Yeah, I was in awe the entire time. I don't know if anyone was like watching me, but like you guys are like making me go wide-eyed like every like 2 seconds, just giving me all these little like info nuggets to chew on for horror.
Definite info nuggets with the spicy dipping sauce. Like I was the same way the whole fucking time. No, trust me, I'm also like, I'm from Mamou, Louisiana. All right, Google it and find out who the fuck I am. So to hear everyone's expert thoughts on this, great opinions, and just great conversation. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, part of the panel for the Cabin on the Web Screamfest via the nightclub. Thank you so much. And we're also gonna go clockwise really quick. Please pimp where people can follow you at and where they can find your latest work, what you want to put out to the world. I'm going to start clockwise on my screen with Sean O'Connor.
All right, I'll be super quick. Thank you, everybody. It was an honor to be here. I really enjoyed this conversation. You can find me and my co-host Shannon Bushman at the Sinful Cuts podcast. That's CINE-FUL podcast. Prospective podcasters, here's a little tip. Never put a dash in your podcast name. Never.
Nice. Lindsay?
I'm hyped on horror on Instagram and TikTok, and there's underscores on TikTok, and I totally agree. Don't ever put little underscores or dashes in your name because that was stupid.
Doesn't it? Oh, when you made the name, weren't you like, for both of y'all? Yeah, it's like, whoever came up with this first and you're not using it now, screw you. Andrew Nyberg.
Hey, so Andrew Nyberg is a really unusual name, and so it's my handle on everything. So you can look at www.andrewnyberg.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, and TikTok.
And you are the author of some dope-ass books. Morbius Door, shout out. And you got a new one, right?
Yeah, actually, I have 2 out. Gala Talk, which came out in November, Island Horror, post-apocalyptic, and then The Neverborn Thief, horror fantasy, came out in March, and I have a short story collection coming out October 18th.
Awesome. Howard.
Well, here's the thing. I don't remember none of my socials.
I love that. You're so honest about that.
Put it in the comments.
Okay. Well, and also this is like a side note, but this is going to be a nightclub episode too. This conversation was so fucking good. I'm going to put this out as a nightclub episode. This was dope. So everyone's info will be in the episode show notes. And with that being said, I want to go over to Cole McCracken, whose movie, I'm not trying to steal the thunder from you saying it, but The Skin She's In reminded me, not exactly the story, but the vibe gave me the short film. I think it's called Lucy Can't Sleep or something like that. And then it got turned into a whole feature film, which the horror community definitely knows as Smile. I think The Skin She's In has the potential to be this hour-and-a-half mind fuck of a movie. So you did a great fucking job with The Skin She's In. Take it away, Cole.
Man, that's high praise. I can't thank you enough. So kind. Who knows? Maybe one day. You can find me on Instagram at Soradage. It's a weird handle that was randomly generated back in 2016, but that is spelled SORADAGE. Currently, The Skin She's In is still going through the festival circuits, and most festivals don't seem to like it when you post it online. However, sometime by the end of the year, I should be posting that out, and I will be posting more information about that. on my page as well. Thanks again, by the way, for having me as a part of this panel. It's super fun.
Fuck yeah! Thank y'all all. And I skipped you on the clockwise, but it's for a reason. It's because you're the host of the Cabin on the Web. So I wanted to give Queer Demon the final shout out because this has been a journey. So Queer Demon, take it away.
For sure. Thank you so much, Travis. And thank you all of the panelists for providing such insightful words to let us chew on throughout the ages. As Travis said, I am Queer Demon, but with a 0 instead of an O, because somebody beats me to it on every single app, so might as well just own it. I have availability on Instagram and TikTok. That's where I post primarily. I've got a series called Top or Flop, which covers a weekly watch of 7 movies a week, because I'm doing a Horror 366 challenge where I watch a different horror movie every single day of the year, no breaks. And I am also the host of the Cabin on the Web. We have a game coming up as well as one final film block, and I will also be hosting the awards. So I hope to see some of you there, especially to receive your, hopefully, crossing our fingers, we're receiving some good awards this year for some absolutely fantastic films that we've seen so far. And thank you, Travis.
No problem. Thank you all. And yes, I will give this. We like you said, we do still have one film block to go at the time of this recording, but so far every film has been awesome. It's been a blast yet again. Year 2, Cabin on the Web, Cabin in the Woods Film Festival. What a fucking blast. I want to give shout outs to Rainbow Fright, who was interacting in the chat, also In Love with Horror, Ashley, the other half of Havoc Props, Howard's production prop company, as well as Strawberry, one of our Discord bays, and she's been on the nightclub a bunch of times. Miss Is It Spicy. So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, for participating, for being part of the panel. Stay spooky, bitches.